Good evening and welcome to Mr. Wilson Live. It is a Tuesday evening. Usually I'm not on a Tuesday, but we have a bit of work to accomplish. We want to look at hepatitis this evening, and I am going to go over immunity. Also, I'm going to be doing a past paper question on immunity, and right after the show, I'm going to be releasing another past paper. As I have said, I'll try to release one each day. So you'll get another one today. And of course, we're going to be doing immunity, and you'll get immunity in the morning as we continue to push the papers out by topic. So we're putting out the papers based on topic. Why have we revisited immunity? It's a fact that immunity is on every exam paper I have ever seen. All right. So if you want to know on the multiple choice, immunity is always there. And every now and then there's immunity as well on paper 2. So I'm going to be going through immunity again. And being that this is going to be our last class on disease, I thought it prudent for us to address the topic immunity once more. So we're going to be doing that. A very interesting lineup it is going to be. We're hoping that it will be as interactive as the class was on Sunday. I really enjoyed that class. I tell you, when the class is on fire, it causes me to really go a little more and, of course, to put some more work in what I am already doing. I do hope, however, that you are doing your best in preparing for the exams. Now, don't worry yourself about what date it will be or what broad topics and all that thing. Just make sure that you are preparing for the exam because you'll be called upon to do all the topics on the multiple choice paper. So if you are prepared for the multiple choice paper, then automatically you're prepared for paper 2. Now, we would have had several past papers out there for paper 1. I must take this opportunity to say thank you to those persons who would have sent me a whole lot of past paper I received over the past 2 days from 2 different individuals. I must also big up my friend Bashan out of Trinidad. He was here with us on Sunday, and he should be sitting in sometime in the week for us to go through. I still remember I have that interview for you, but just give me some time. Let us get this hepatitis and immunity out of the way, and then we can talk about other things. All right. So we know on Friday, however, that we're going to be doing the water cycle and water pollution. All right. Great. So you would have seen now that Anna is here with me, but I'm going to start the show now. I'm not too sure why he's doing that, but this is where he wants to be for now. All right. So we're looking at hepatitis, right? And one, probably you're familiar with hepatitis A or hepatitis B or hepatitis C. I'm not too sure. You can tell me in the chat. I didn't do my roll call, so let me do that right now. Peter Gay Campbell is here. Sharda is here. Khan is here. I don't know if I've ever seen Sharda before, but welcome, and you could tell us which island you're coming from. Jawawan is here, and she's always here. Felix is here, always here. And of course, Cheryl is always here as well. Good evening and welcome to the show. I've been talking a lot just to get the others to come in. I know this is not my show day, so I've been trying to buffer to have them come in on time. Sir, I didn't understand how you did the graph on HIV. Oh, so is it that you want me to talk about that graph on HIV before I get into the lesson? If you say yes, I'll do that. I know I did promise to go over that. I will do that for you. The graph on HIV. Did you see the video? I sent out a video. Have you seen that video, Jawawan? No, have you seen the video I sent out? That's the question I want you to answer. Have you seen the video? I did the video and I sent it out. The video is 25 minutes long. Yes, I saw the video, but still didn't understand how you did it. How I did what aspect? Tell me what aspect you'd like me to cover. What aspect of the graph you did not understand? You understand how I came up with the name of the axis? Great. You're welcome, Cheryl. Do you understand how I got the name of the axis? Yes, no? I'll just ask you if you don't know how to answer. Do you understand how I got the name of the axis? Yes, no? Are you going to look for mommy now? Going down? That's where you're going? No? Okay. Sorry. Hi, Giselle. All right, so you're telling me? Yes, I understand. Okay, great. So you understand how we got the axis. Is it that you don't understand how we got the scale? Is that where your problem lies? Joanne, do you understand how we got the scale? Yes, no? And the scale represents the number, more so the numbers on the y-axis. Is that question like if I have a private online class or if there's online class on any other day? We have online classes on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Relax, please. All right, great. So now I understand where you're having the challenge. I will try to fix that challenge. Welcome to the show, Giselle, Lori. Hi, how you doing? All right, great. So for those persons who were here in the last class when we did AIDS, what we have been doing is to find a past paper question to fit the topic that we would have covered. In that class, we looked at HIV, but there's a graph on the paper and a number of persons have been asking me to work on graph. So rather than teaching graph as an independent topic, what I would have done is to find a graph question and work the graph question for you, which is a little more practical. It's like on-the-job training. So we looked at a graph I published that video yesterday, but there are persons who are saying that they don't understand the graph. So what I'm going to be doing, so there are persons who are saying that they didn't understand. So I'm going to try and find that video, not the video, find the graph that I'd work and look at it. All right, so it was HIV. Anai, are you going to be a good boy today? Guys, just give me a second. Let me try to find that. I think it was titled HIV, but I'm not seeing it. Excretion, water pollution, disease, meiosis. All right, let me try here. I thought I did a great job with the video. That is why I didn't come prepared to teach that today. But I guess, I don't know. I can't find it. Oh, no. Okay, go and find your mom. But you're being a naughty boy. I am so sorry, Jawawan. I don't know where that question is. I can't find it. All right. I'll try and explain where how I arrived at the answer. I really don't know what happened. Usually, HIV. All right, let me try down here. Let's give me one more chance to check. I think it was titled HIV. So JPEG. No. All right. What has happened? I don't know. Guys, I'm trying to find a document I had on my system to see how best can assist you. I I'm of the opinion I'd title it HIV, but I'm having problem finding the document now. So I might have to just forego that and treat with it some other time. Don't know where it is.
What's wrong with you?
Forgive me, guys. HIV, I did that yesterday, didn't I? Circulation. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. All right, so I am having problem finding that paper, but I'll just tell you from what I can recall as to how I arrived at the answer. I don't know, I tried my best, but I'm not seeing it. I'm certain that I titled it HIV, but it is nowhere to be found. I'm using 2 laptops. I don't know if I'd HSB. Was it question 6? Anybody can tell me? Was it question 6 or was it question 2? No, it's not question 6. Was it question 2? Anybody can tell me which other question it was? All right, it's not question 6. Man, I didn't see this coming. And I can't remember the question from my head. All right, this is my last go at it. If it's not here, then. All right, great. Great. So it's not HIV, it's named something different. All right, let us look at this question. Sorry, guys, I was out trying to find a past paper. So let me just bring you back up to Vaughn, big up yourself. Welcome back. Some students having problem with the graph that I published. They don't understand the graph. So we are okay. It is May, June 2014. So I'm going to be telling you about that graph. I'm going to be putting away the lesson today. Vaughn, today we're going to be looking at hepatitis A, B, and C. We're also going to go over immunity, and I'm also going to be giving them a question on immunity. I mean, it is a rough question because only 3 questions, I think, is the 15 marks is valued pretty much it's covered in 3 questions for immunity. Which paper it was again? Give me a second. I'm closing my screen. All right. All right, just let me tell you which paper that we're going to be looking at, Vaughn, and then we get right back to this. Sorry, guys. I was all prepared for my exam, for my live until Jawawan said that she's having an issue. All right, so the 2018, Vaughn, I'll be doing the 2018 question number 5. That's a question that we're going to be doing this evening for immunity. So we're going to be doing the 2018 question number 5. I think it's section B. We're going to end the show with that. But we want to talk about the graph. Persons don't understand the graph, so I'm going to be starting like from basic with graph. For this particular graph, I'll be doing some other type of graphs, but I was told by my director to do another type of graph. So we were planning on doing the population pyramid. So I'm going to start out with a blank sheet. There we go. And I'm going to draw just a part of the graph. All All right, great. I think it's May, June. Now, so this is a part of a graph. All right. So naturally, here is the x-axis, and on this side, we are going to have the y-axis. I want you to pay attention. Great. The big thing is we're doing a bar graph. So if we're doing the bar graph, then a bar graph, usually they really don't touch each other. So they are separate because they are carrying disjoint data. If we're using a histogram, let me show you a histogram. If we're using a histogram, usually the bars will be touching each other because pretty much they are carrying information that flows. Now, when we talk about histogram versus bar graph, we have to get back to our genetics because this is the two graphs that we look at in genetics. In genetics, we say that if it is continuous variation, like brown, a little browner, a little browner, a little browner, 5-inch, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, then we can use this histogram or a line graph to represent it. Anything that is represented on the histogram can also be represented on a line graph. Now, if I were supposed to use this to represent a line graph, what I would get a graph looking something like this, and I'm drawing just a line. So you see that line drawn through, that is how the line graph would have looked. Now, this is not the graph that we are interested in today. This is the histogram. We are not interested in this graph. We are interested in the bar graph. And let me just quickly draw a bar for you. The bar graph, it has just bars like one would say prison bars. All right, so this is a bar graph. Now, usually the bars are the same width. What width mean? How thick they are. The bars are usually the same width. However, the height will differ depending on the information that you are representing. I think the May, June, I think it might be May, June. But if it's not May, June, then it's going to be January. So for 2018, it's easy to find that bit out. All right, so this is the bar graph. Now, our trouble with the bar graph that we had for that particular class are all the graphs that we're doing at CXC is for students to work out a suitable axis. Sorry, a suitable scale. Now, when we talk about the scale, we're talking about the numbering on this side or the numbering on this side. Now, with the bar graph, the nice thing is that we're not working out any numbering here. We're just naming the bars. Now, on the one I worked out and posted on my channel, I was not able to put the names at the base here. So what I did, I ran the names through each bar. So you would have seen the names coming down in the bars vertically. That's fine. You could do that for your exam just the same. So the names are written on the bars for the exam. So this joint data, this bar represent Jamaica, one represent Haiti, one represent Cuba, that type of a thing. However, Amoy Lawrence is May, June. All right, there, my partner. Ram Logan is also a teacher out of Trinidad, and he's here with me today. He's going to be helping me go through this thing today. All right, great. So he's from Trinidad. He's a teacher as well. All right, great. So this here is the bar chart. I've said that a million times. So let us say the first one represents Jamaica. I don't know what it is there. And the other represents Cuba. And this one represents Haiti. All right. So we needed to give this axis a name. And where we got the name, we got the name from the table. Because once it's created, we are not going to go recreating. And on the table, at the top of the column that we have the names of the countries is name country. So we use the name country at the base on the video that I sent out. So on the base here, you are going to see country. And then on the side here, I think it's the amount of debt that is due to somebody who watched the video. Tell me what is there. I'm not going to be telling you everything, you know, I usually don't. So on the y-axis, we have debts due to AIDS. All right, great. Let's get back to this. So here we have debt due to AIDS. Great. But the problem that we had is that we must have some either geometric trend or algorithmic trend on our scale. What does that mean? It's either we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we're going to go up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or we're going to go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. We must have some consistency in the scale. Now, there are some way we can get around that consistency when we have data sets that are far apart. So in the data set that we had, I think we had as the largest at the floor would have been 230. Let me look at it again. I think we had 230 for the Dominican Republic. And after 230, the next big figure would have been 710. Now, if you looked at the graph leaf that we were given, it is a very small graph leaf. Very small, smaller than usual. And we needed to represent everything on the graph leaf. So what I did, I tried to calculate how much I can get to hold on the graph leaf, bearing in mind that each of those small lines in one little square, 1 centimeter, based on what I did, I wanted to have 75% minimum coverage of my graph. So I'd use on that graph 1 centimeter to represent 50 deaths. But I did not write 50 here. I upped on up to 2 and I wrote 100. Now, if you divide it by 2, then you are going to see that the 100, the block line below, is going to be 50. So let me just write that. So I didn't write anything on the first line, but I wrote something on the second line. So I think I had something like this, 100, and then I got up to 200. You probably would have seen something like that on the graph. So I didn't write anything here. So though my scale is saying 1 centimeter equal 50, nothing was written here, but it is accepted that if this is 1 centimeter, this is going to be 2 centimeter. And if this is 2 centimeter and you divide 100 by 2, then you are going to get 50 here, right? But I didn't write that in because it's going to be too cumbersome on my graph. I don't remember what figure I went up to. Probably I went up to 300. So then I went again and I skipped out 250 and I went up to 300. Now I went up to 250 because I wanted to represent 230 on the graph. And I know that each of the little lines between 150 or between any two of these line coming across would represent 10. So I'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that 10, once I go 3, it would have been 230. If I went 3 lines here, it would have been 230. Now, so that is covered on the graph. I know that these little line, and if I have something that is less than 10, or if in the case where we had 12, I know that 12 is going to fall somewhere between 10 and 20, but it's not going to be in the middle. It's going to be a little below the middle. Now, 15 would have, we would have found it on the graph right in the middle of 10 and 20. I would have to pay attention to the little fine lines in the boxes. Most persons would have an appreciation for that because that is somewhat in sequence. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, and we got up to 100 in the graph. The video is out there. Where we had the problem is when we are now supposed to represent 710 on the graph, and there is no space on the paper to put 710. So in my last class, I showed you that we could use 2 things. We could break the line using these 2 lines. We could break this using these 2 lines, which is showing that some of the data set might be missing. And then we continue above. Or we could use this as well. Am I drawing it properly? It's something more like a lightning flash, this thing here, like a lightning. So it come down, just let me try. All right, great. So it's more like this, more like this. We could use this or we could use this. For ease, I use this one. And in most cases on your exam, you're going to see this one. So what this said to me is that the data set, I'm going to put it onto this graph now. This graph that I'm using, I'm going to represent it on this graph. So I'm going to pull my 2 lines there. and then I'm going to come on up. All right, so there I have my 2 lines telling me that some data is missing, and then I'm going to continue up. Now, when I started the graph, I think I started at 700. I don't remember what I started at. I started at 700. So if we started at 700 here and we are moving up by 50, then we'd have to miss a space here, and then up here we would get to 800, right? So the same graduation that we have here, moving up by 50, as soon as we cross this line that suggests missing data, then we are going to start back at whatever figure you choose here, but the graduation is going to be consistent with what is down here. So this allowed us to put on the 750 on the graph by using this symbol. All we needed to do was to just use that symbol right there. I don't know if that is any clearer to you, but I think I tried to explain that in the video. If it's not clear, you can tell me. Probably Vaughn could help me here. I think I did my best with that. All right, so Amoy, are you any clearer? The video is there. I think it's called HIV something. If you go to my channel, you'd have seen that question. I'm seeing here that it is the January 2012 question 5. Is it 2012? No, oh, okay. But Vaughn, it's a question that we are working. I don't even remember what question it is. All right, so it could be the January 2012 question 5. Also on immunity. Okay, we have a January 2012 on immunity. We'll look at that as well. All right, great. So I'm gonna watch it over. All right, I want you to watch it over. What you could do is probably to send me an email, and then I probably could look at where you're having the issue, or probably we need to do some more graphs so that you can become more comfortable. But that is how difficult graphs tend to come. And once you're seeing that big figure and the rest of the figure are pretty small, just remember that you'll have to use the symbol I've shown you. The easiest one to remember is just those 2 slash, and then you continue your line. All right, so that's the best thing you're going to do, or the easiest thing to ensure that you have good coverage of your graph. What I've said to the students in our last class is that if you get to the graph and you find that you're having challenges with the graph, draw the axis. Put on the scale if you can put on the scale, or put on the key if you're using a key, that type of thing, and try to represent what you can represent on the graph, even if you can't represent everything. All right, putting on the name on the graph, naming the axis, those are very easy stuff because you're going to be pulling the information from the table. Another thing, I don't know if persons got confused because I jumped over the middle column and I went to the 2 extreme column. The death due to AIDS, that is what the thing had asked us to do. So that is what we had to represent on the graph. It did not ask us to represent what was in the middle column on the graph. As such, I did not do that. The information on the x-axis, that is a given. It is the independent variable that we place on the x-axis. And usually, the independent variable is in the first column of your table. I do hope that we did a wonderful work with that. If you are still not understanding, feel free to send us a message. We'll try to see what we can do, or if we need to do another video on column graph. But we're going to try to look at some more graphs. I don't know. We're going to try. I'm going to talk to the team and see how best we can deal with that. So we want to talk about hepatitis, and this is like a summative to the diseases that we have covered. Now, one thing we need to recall about hepatitis is that we have hepatitis A, we have hepatitis B, we have hepatitis C. Now, you must pay attention to what I'm saying because I'll be asking you some trick questions as we go along. Now, I'm going to be just giving you the general signs, symptoms for hepatitis before we get into the specifics of the different types of hepatitis. Now, the first thing we need to know is that hepatitis, wherever it comes from, whatever it is a viral infection. All right. So now, some signs and symptoms that are associated with hepatitis, the first one we can think about is fatigue. But the truth is there are many other diseases that you might be affected by and you experience fatigue. We're also going to experience abdominal pain if you have been infected by hepatitis. Another thing that you might have is loss of appetite. And one might say, but this is even getting a little trickier because we have had all these signs and symptoms for many other diseases. But here comes the big problem. where we have inflammation of the liver. Now, you could have inflammation of the liver and, of course, jaundice. Now, jaundice is that disease that you can catch from so many other ailments. So, say jaundice, that is going to be another big problem. Now, the thing about hepatitis is that hepatitis can be a terminal illness. You can die from hepatitis. You could end up having liver failure. You could end up having cirrhosis of the liver. You could end up having liver cancer. So to talk about hepatitis, it is very important because hepatitis could mean your life. Now, in all cases, if it is not treated or dealt with properly, it could, of course, lead to death. Now, there's a question I'm going to be asking, and I want you to type it in the chat as usual. I want you to tell me in the chat, what is the difference between antiviral drugs versus antiretroviral drugs? So we have antiviral drugs and we have antiretroviral drugs. And I want you to look at that carefully, because when I looked at some other AIDS question, I realized that there was a question there. What is the difference between AIDS and HIV? And I think we started off our show the last time with that. So we want to know in the chat there, what's the difference between antiviral drugs and antiretroviral drugs? What you stole? No, carry it back. Carry it back. Be a nice boy. Good boy. All right, great. So having looked at that, it's important to note that if you happen to recover from hepatitis, then you are going to, of course, have immunity to the disease. This is where you will have to know, how this bit home, we need to find out at the end of this lesson what type of immunity you will have having had hepatitis, overcome hepatitis, and now you become immune. What type of immunity are you going to be having? Now, when one have hepatitis, or when one has hepatitis, they could compound the problem if they wish. They could, of course, make it worse. How could they make it worse? By consuming alcohol. Because we already know that with alcohol, we could, of course, have cirrhosis of the liver. So with hepatitis and alcohol, that, of course, compounds the problem. All right? Natural active immunity. Interesting. I'm always out of the block early. Now, how do you know for sure that you have hepatitis? Because if the signs and symptoms are so similar to many other diseases, how can we tell if we are suffering from hepatitis and we are sure that that is what we are suffering from? Tell me in the chat there. How can we be sure? How can we be sure that we are suffering or not suffering from hepatitis? Tell me in the chat. I'm not too sure if the paper is available online. It's not the easiest thing to find papers online. In some cases, it's a resource student like you who send them to us, and we are trying out as best as possible to target those questions we know might be on the question, and in some cases we know, some question we know will be on the paper, and some question we know might be on the paper. All right. So to find out if we have hepatitis, we must do a blood test. We do a blood test to detect if we are suffering from the particular virus. Now let us look at hepatitis A. Now when we talk about hepatitis A, we could also say HAV. Now you've heard about, what other H have you heard about with V? You have heard about HIV. You have heard about HPV. So we've heard about HIV, we have heard about HPV, and now we're telling you about HAV. And HAV, all that it stands for is hepatitis type A. Now, this is another tricky one, because with hepatitis type A, you are going to feel sick as if you would feel sick with just about anything. You are going to have diarrhea with this type of an hepatitis. No, with hepatitis A, and they are all different, with hepatitis A, you are going to be having diarrhea. And you're going to be having diarrhea because the mode of transmission for hepatitis A is by food or water that was, of course, contaminated by feces. And we have been talking about feces and contamination over and over again. Hence, to guard ourselves again from hepatitis A, we must practice proper food hygiene. Practicing proper food hygiene, it is also important that we practice proper sewage disposal, right? Not on an open lot, not in our water bodies, and not in a plastic bag and parachute. You might be setting up yourself for some great harm. Let's look at now at HBV. HBV. HBV stands for hepatitis type B. HBV stands for hepatitis type B. Now listen, we're changing course. Now the transmission of type B hepatitis is through the blood or body fluid. Now if we're going to be talking about blood and body fluid for transmission, then it is fair to say that hepatitis can be acquired by sexual contact. So the amount of sexually transmitted disease that we have spoken about, it is way too much to remember, and most persons tend to forget hepatitis. So hepatitis B is acquired by contact or through the contact with blood, bodily fluid, during sexual contact, or when we share needles. For the persons who are taking drugs, those persons tend to are high risk for hepatitis B, as hepatitis is transmitted. The transmission is pretty much by blood, and as we continue to emphasize, body fluid. The high risk persons are patients with HIV. Those persons are high risk for hepatitis, and persons who are drug addicts. They are also high risk for hepatitis B. Now, the nice thing about hepatitis B is that there is a vaccine, right? So we have two things to remember about immunity. Now we made mention of vaccine, so we are going to we'll need to find out vaccine, what type of immunity that relates to. And then we spoke earlier about if you acquire the disease and of course you overcome the disease, you have some amount of immunity. So we need to look at these two types of immunity so far. And hence the reason I have brought back immunity as a topic that I taught already to reteach this evening. So with hepatitis B, blood transfusion, body fluid. Can it be treated, cured? Vaccines are available. Great. So now we are at HCV, and that stands for hepatitis type C. Now, the interest group here for this disease is, of course, going to be those persons who continue to share the needles. Now, the sad thing about hepatitis B, as it is somewhat like hepatitis C, as it is somewhat like hepatitis B, while in hepatitis B you have a vaccine, in hepatitis C or with hepatitis C, there is no vaccine. It has no vaccine because the thing about hepatitis C is that it has a long incubation period. So you are going to be having hepatitis C and you don't know that you have it. So there's really no vaccination for hepatitis C. With that said, I don't know that we can say, we can emphasize anymore the importance of probably monogamy, the importance of abstinence, the importance of a condom, the importance of safe sex, the importance of being honest, the importance, if it were Jamaica, for a culture change. This thing about having enough gal and gal in a bungle, as we say it in Jamaica, it is not something that is healthy. This thing about I just want to find that man and rip him off and become a millionaire, or move to the other man, it is not a healthy practice. It could, of course, mean your life. So we looked at hepatitis. We said that it's a viral disease. We said that there are 3 types, A, B, and C. We said that we acquire the virus for A by food that has been contaminated by feces. And then we said that for B, we acquire this, and C, we acquire this through blood or bodily fluids. We also said that hepatitis B has a vaccine, but we emphasized that hepatitis C has no vaccine. Then we continue to urge all my students to practice safe sex when you get to that side of the bridge. I'm not saying that if you're underage or a minor or that is not your alley, that you should travel that alley. Be safe. I want to give you some keywords now before we hop on into immunity. Remember, this is supposed to be a short class. I'm going to be asking questions, so you need to participate. I realize that persons are all sleeping and the pillow is up and all of that. I want you now to participate. Now, when we talk about resistant or resistance, what is it? What does that mean? I have resistance to a particular disease. I am resistant to the disease. What does that mean? Tell me in the chat there. And after you would have found that out, when we talk about natural, as it were, for immunity, what does natural means? All right, so I'll be listening here or looking here, and I'll be doing the reading. So as you make your way to get that bit of information, I'll be scrolling up to see if there's something that I missed out that I should have addressed. Okay, great. So I understand. Hi, sir. Sir, do you have any more online classes? Yes, I answered that. We have classes on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 5:05 p.m. Sir, I was present in class Sunday, but was it recorded? Great. So this takes me to the point that I have been saying, guys, when you come to class, whatever class, it doesn't cost you to subscribe. You need to subscribe, click that notification bell and select all so that you can get the most, should I say, up-to-date videos as they are made available. All my sessions are recorded. If it's a live, it is unedited. So you could just go to my channel and look at all the lives. The lives come in volume. I think we're now at volume 65, though this is level 66. I think the other lesson should be 66. So we're at volume 65, really. So yes, it is there. The past paper that we discussed in the class, we also posted that past paper. And today we're going to be looking at another past paper. Sorry, I will post that past paper tomorrow. But after this class, sorry, what's that? The epiglottis failed just now. All right, after today's class, we're also going to be posting a past paper, a question. We're doing targeted questions. So that answer the problem. Yeah, that would be nice. Sir, it's HIV graph. Yes, we did a HIV graph. Get the ball on. Okay. Mackinson, this is a family group, and we pay attention to everybody's complaint, and we are very respectful to each other if you are new to the group. All right, we are very happy to have you, but you are going to respect the space of others. All right, that's why we've been here so long, because we've been respectful to each other. Great. All right, getting everyone. Greeting everyone. All right, okay. Good evening. All right, great. All right, great. So I have a question. Felix, go right ahead with your question. Resistance mean the ability not to be affected by something. That is a nice way to put it, or a very easy way. If you are resistant to something, then you will not be affected by it. I think I like that. I have a question. Go right ahead. Is hepatitis C worse than hepatitis A and B? Okay. Is it worse than hepatitis A or B? I would classify hepatitis C and B pretty much to be somewhat similar. However, I would see hepatitis A somewhat different in that hepatitis A is more is from food, right? So you could control that food bit, right? You could control where you consume. But if you have a partner that is unfaithful and you are not going to be doing that testing, then you could say hepatitis C and B are really, really more dangerous in that regard. All right. You will never walk alone. Resistance means that you are able to fight off a disease or virus. Pretty much you will not be affected by it, as Natisha has said earlier. Jawan, sir, I got to go. All right, Care, I'll catch you later. Sir, I don't understand line graph. Okay, we'll be doing a line graph sometime soon as we find that question. Or if you have a question and you know you have a past paper or a year past paper for which there's a line graph and you can send it to us, we will treat with it. All right, great. So pretty much we have the meaning for resistance. Now, natural, what does natural mean? Now, simply put, I like to say that natural is organic, or if you believe in God, I would say natural is God made, right? I like to say that organic or God made. Now, some other things that you need to know for your exam are words like antigen. Antigen. Now, antigen is, of course, protein, but of course, there are some antigen that could be carbohydrate that you can find like on a red blood cell. Now, antigen, they cause the lymphocyte to make antibodies. All right. So, antigen, they cause the lymphocytes to make antibodies. Now, when I talk about antibodies, I usually say to my students, antibodies are like your body, they are your friend. You know, we used to call our friends, that's my good buddy, man. We really can't use those words anymore, they are outlawed. So, antibodies, they are your friends. The antibody, they are here to protect you. All right. So, antibody, they are in fact protein in nature and they tend to destroy pathogen. So, look what happens. There's a foreign invader comes with an antigen. The lymphocyte will, of course, make antibodies that are specific to the antigen. Like when we talk about enzyme, they are specific to the antigen, and they will tend to destroy this foreign matter. Now, there is something else we want to talk about. It's popular that we talk about antibodies and antigen, and a lost in the crop is usually antitoxin. Now, antitoxin are, of course, antibodies that are made in relation or to fight toxin, right? So we have antigen, then we have antibodies. Now, the antibodies are formed as a result of the antigen in order to get rid of the pathogen or that foreign organism. So, we did say that antitoxin are actually antibodies that are actually made to fight off toxin. Then there's another word, guys. Please ensure that you're getting these stuff. If I need to slow down, tell me. You need to arm yourself with this information in order to answer the past paper question that we have coming up. All right, great. Another thing that we need to know, or another fancy word, is the word innate. Innate. You tell me in the chat what it means when we say innate. I'm sorry, I'm going to get myself some water. What is meant by innate? Tell me in the chat. Innate. Innate. If we say that something is innate, what does it mean? that behavior is innate. What does that mean? Tell me in the chat. Don't fall asleep on me now. I can't do this alone. I need your help. Innate. Something is innate. What does it mean to be innate? Now, remember that immunity is going to be on your exam. Okay, I want you to go a little further than just being natural, because we could say natural innate. Please don't use natural. Find another word. We could say natural, natural innate. All right, so you're going to find that this natural thing is, we have to be very careful how we use it as it comes, when it comes to immunity. I can say almost for sure, even though I don't work at CXC, that immunity will be on your exam for both HSB and bio. If not on the paper too, I am almost certain it will be on the multiple choice. It is always there. All right, great. Kayla, I like your response, inborn. All right, so it means that you were born with this. If it is innate, you were born with it. And then my co-teacher is sharing with us, lymphocyte produce antibodies that neutralize antigen. All right, and the antigen, it's on the pathogen. So the pathogen would come with the antigen, and the antibodies would neutralize them, which will cause the pathogen. So it acts in different ways, all right? So it could cause them to clump together. That is just one way. Phagocyte then will surround the neutralized pathogen and break them down. All right, it's very important to know that word phagocyte that is coming up in the lesson. Remember, I like to say that the phagocyte is that white blood cell that does the eating. The phagocyte, we can call it phagocyte, we can call it granulocyte, all right? And it tends to have this lobe nucleus. And sometimes when you see it represented, it's represented like it is engulfing something. All right. So this is just one way in which the antibodies work to cause the pathogen to clump together. It could also kill it. Our Vaughn will tell us some more as we go along. All right. So that is nice information for you to have there. Existing in belonging, Barnett, in an individual from birth. So we're saying that innate, it would have existed from birth. All right. So there we have some information on the screen for antibodies and antigen and the lymphocyte that is coming out nicely there. So we talk about lymphocyte, that is one type of white blood cell. We spoke about phagocyte earlier. That's another type of white blood cell. And you realize here, just let me pause a bit to talk about this. Vaughn, continue to do your work. I'm loving it. There are some students who like to tell teachers that, Miss or sir, you teach confusing. Let's let me confuse you here. Now, if you look at what Vaughn said there, we're talking about disease now, immunity. And in immunity, we must be armed with our knowledge from circulation, because we must know about the phagocyte. We must know about the lymphocyte. We must know about the thrombocyte, the same thing that we call platelet. So you must make sure that you have a good grasp of a syllabus, that when you see questions like these, you can pull on information from wherever they are in the syllabus to answer the question. And you're going to see that as soon as we pull that past paper on you this evening. Sir, doesn't the phagocyte self-destruct or die after killing the pathogen? I have never heard that. Ramlagan, you can help me with that, but I've never heard that. Just let me treat with this. This is a beautiful question. Let me treat with the phagocyte, the same thing we call granulocyte. It's a type of white blood cell, and you must be able to identify it. What I know about this, this was not on the topic, the lesson. This was not a part of the lesson for today, but I'm going to treat with it. What I know is that the skin would have been broken, right? So what is going to naturally happen is that the phagocytes will rush to that area, right? We have the inflammation response and blah, blah, blah. So the phagocytes will rush to that area, and they are going to try to eat up everything, all the foreign matter, just to prevent an infection. So it is as if you are going to war. So going to war, America would probably send in their ground troop first. So the phagocyte is like the ground troop is going to do that groundwork. So the phagocyte will eat up all those foreign matter. But there comes a time when the phagocyte is overrun by the pathogen. So the phagocyte just cannot deal with it. The phagocyte just can't deal with it. What is going to happen, and I'm a little comedic sometime, the phagocyte is going to take out the cell phone and it's going to radio. Can you tell me who it's going to call? Who the phagocyte is going to call when the phagocyte take out the cell phone? Tell me who the phagocyte is going to call. The phagocyte needs some help because the phagocyte is now overrun by pathogen and it needs to call for help. Now, if it was a ground troop in the army, the ground troop would call for Air Force and then they would get some air strikes, some helicopter would come and help them. Now the phagocyte is overrun and it needs to call for support. Who is it going to call on? Tell me in the chat there. We're still looking at immunity. It is going to call on the lymphocytes. All right, it's going to call on the lymphocyte. So the lymphocyte is going to provide this ear support, this ear strike, where it is going to release chemicals to subdue the pathogen. All right, so they work together, but first on the scene is always going to be your phagocyte. And if the phagocyte can't deal with it, then we have the lymphocyte. And then when all this is happening to that area, then we have the platelets, the thrombocyte, trying to form that network, that clot, blood clot over the area to prevent any further infection. See it? We're talking about immunity, and now we're back into circulation. Great. So a lot said there. Let's get back on track with what we're looking at. So we're looking at innate, and we said that if it is innate, you were born with it, right? It's inborn. When you're born, you had it. That quality, that trait, it was within you. And then another word that we need to look at is active. Now the body is producing motorcycle. Now, if we say that it is active immunity, what it means is that the body is producing its own immunity. So whatever happened, whatever prompt that it got, the body now starts to work in building up a defense mechanism, in building up that immunity, in building up that memory that I was affected by this once and I'm not going to be affected again. So we spoke about innate, we spoke about active, because you're going to need to know these words, and now we're going to be looking at passive. Now, if it is passive, the body does not make its own antibodies. If it is passive, it is not the body that is making the antibody. Now, let us go through the ranks of immunity. And we're going to be starting with natural immunity. And with natural immunity, the first one we want to think about is natural, innate, active immunity. Break up. So the first type of immunity, that we're looking at, and you're going to get this today, and I don't want you to study immunity again, you know. No. Because if it's innate, it is within you. If it is active, it means that your body is doing the work. Your body is making that resistance. If it is passive, no, it's not you. You're getting it from somewhere. So now we have this type of immunity. It is natural, it is active, and it is innate. Natural, innate, active immunity. What does this mean? What should I understand from that? Break that down for me. Tell me in the chat. I want to know. Nitisha wants to know. Barnett wants to know. So I want everybody to tell me, what does that mean? If you experience or you have natural, innate, active immunity, what should we understand from that? If I were supposed to tell you that I have natural, innate, active immunity, what does that mean? And this is for both biology and HSB. What does it mean? Great. I'm waiting on you, guys. We have to have an interactive session. Can't do it alone. All right, so let us see what's happening here. Wow. I don't know, this seems to be a hard topic for you. All right, so somebody had asked about the phagocyte and Ramlogan, which is assisting me teaching today. It won't self-destruct. Phagocytes will continue to happen, or it will continue to work until the phagocyte dies or is removed. All right. So as to say that the phagocytes are going to be self-destruct, like I said, I've never heard that before. And Ramlogan is confirming that it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't work. If it can't manage, then you are going to have the lymphocyte coming in. But as to self-destruct, no. No, that is like suicide. No. All right. Usually the body doesn't operate like that. All right. Body is going to fight until death. All right. It can be within you and get it from somewhere else. Amoy Lawrence. Natural innate active immunity is acquired by a person exposed to the pathogen. That's not the one that we'd ask about. We're asking about natural, innate, active. And all that I did just now was just to ask you to put those words together. Remember, we spoke about natural. Remember, we spoke about innate. Remember, we spoke about active. So I just asked you to put those words together to tell me about the type of immunity. Now, if it is natural, we're talking about something a little different there. We're talking about something a little different there. If it is natural and it is innate active immunity, it means that you were born with this type of immunity. You were born to be immune from this type of a pathogen. That is natural, innate, active immunity. Let's talk about baby now. Let's talk about baby now. Now, with natural innate, we have it there. With natural innate passive immunity, that's where we get to the baby. Now, here the antibodies are produced by the mother and they are passed to the fetus. So in that case, we say that it is innate passive. All right? Remember that we said that passive, it's not passive mean that you are not doing it. All right? Natural, it was actually made by the organism itself. And then innate, it is within, inborn. So the baby is going to be born with that. But however, the baby acquires this immunity from the mother. So it is called natural, innate, passive because it's coming from the mother, immunity. This type of immunity, like I said, comes from the mother across the placenta. All right, it is acquired while the baby is within the womb. Then there's another type that persons argue about whether it is acquired or otherwise. The baby getting immunity from the breast milk. This is also captured nicely on the natural, innate, passive. I know that we are being thrown away by this whole lot of innate and passive, innate and natural and all of that. All right. So just let us take it slowly. Innate, you are born with it. Passive, you get it from somewhere. So you're born with it, but you got it from somewhere. Active, meaning that it is happening within you. It is your body that is working on it. All right. Passive, you're getting it from somewhere. Ram Logan is saying that innate or passive, and Amoy is saying innate or Amoy is saying passive and innate. Depending on the literature that you're reading, some might say that it's the same, some might say that it is different. Now, the argument is that with innate, for this case, you were born with it. We're going to see when we look at artificial how passive can be different from innate. We're going to see when we look at artificial how passive can be viewed different than innate. So let us get back to this. For the baby, it's going to, once we talk about baby and breast milk and all of that, it's going to be natural, innate, because the baby is born with it, passive, because he acquired it from his mom. So whether it be breast milk or it's going to be across the placenta, it's going to be natural, innate, passive immunity. Now, it's very important to note that this type of immunity is short-lived, but it's very important for the baby that the baby gets breastfed because the baby does not produce antibodies. The baby does not produce antibodies. So it's very, very important for the baby to get this breast milk. All right, let us continue down the line. Now, we have one now we refer to as natural acquired active immunity. A whole lot of things. So natural, it's organic. Acquired, you're getting this immunity from somewhere. Active, you are going to develop some antibodies within you. All right. So now this type of immunity is the immunity that you acquire from exposure to the disease. So Chick V was here, Zick V was here, and they said that they have no worry about the second year because once person would have contracted Chick V or Zick V, they would have been immune from the disease for the following year. So Chick V and Zick V, they are examples of natural, acquired, active immunity because you were exposed to the disease, and then having been exposed to the disease, the body is going to develop those antibodies to protect you in the future from the disease. I think this one is easy. It's called natural, acquired, active immunity. Too much names if you ask me. Then there is the artificial. So we are now moving away from natural to artificial. And the artificial immunity comes with serum, comes with vaccine. All right. So artificial immunity, this is as a result of human inducing deliberately this type of immunity. If it is artificial, it has a human touch, and of course, it is deliberate. Now, usually, and I ask, it means that your body is self-healing with the ability to fight against, I wouldn't say any, because yes, it's fighting, but is it winning the fight? Usually when you're feeling sick, it's because there's a fight going on, you know. But while the body can deal with some things, we're yet to see the body dealing effectively with AIDS. All right. So I don't want persons to leave because we are now talking about natural, acquired, and the various type of immunity. I don't want persons to leave and say that I'm not going to be taking any medication because my body can deal with it. The body can do so much and no more. I know that everybody here is very good at what they do, but it gets to a point when you have perfect your best when you are going to need some help from outside. So with artificial immunity, that is what it does. And like I said, that it is something that is deliberately induced by human. Now, how it works, and I'm going to ask Ramlagan just to put some things in the chat there. How it works is that we could use a vaccine. And the vaccine is usually made from a weakened strain of the pathogen. Now, how do we weaken this pathogen? We could do heat treatment in, of course, weakening the pathogen, or we could use formalin, formalin. And what we could do a repeated transfer of the virus. And with this repeated transfer of the virus, then it will weaken the virus. So vaccines are pretty much weakened form of a pathogen. How do we weaken the pathogen? We could use heat treatment. We could use formalin. Those are two. And of course, we could do repeated transfer of a pathogen. That would, of course, weaken the pathogen. Now, this gives, when we do this, it gives artificial active immunity. As it were, when we took our BCG, those shots that they take at the clinic for the babies, persons who have babies and go to 6-week clinic and so on, they can tell you. So with the BCG shot, which is a vaccine, it is artificial, right? And it is active immunity. What makes it active is that having given that shot, the body is now going to look at what is happening there, the antigen there from the weakened strain of a pathogen, and it is going to make, of course, pathogen in order to treat with it is going to make antibodies. I'm very sorry. The body is now going to make antibodies matching to those antigen to get rid of the pathogen. Okay, got it. Innate is different from birth only. Innate is different from birth only. Okay, great. All right. So remember, we are going to be looking at some. I'm going to be pulling them out for you. I'm going to stick you in the eye with them. So when they get to the eye, just let us treat with that. BCG, polio. Remember that some of the vaccines that we are taking, like poliomyelitis, it is a drop. It's not an injection. So in some cases, we are getting an injection for the vaccine. In some cases, we are getting it orally. Now, there are some things you want to take away from this lesson and not study. There are some things you want to take away from this lesson and not study. The first one you should put on your agenda is the artificial active immunity. Remember, what it means is that we're going to give you the vaccine. If it's a vaccine, it's artificial. We're going to give you that vaccine, whether by injection or other means. And having given you that vaccine, then your body, through the active mechanism, is going to make the antibodies. I feel like persons are lost. I can feel that energy, like you're lost, you're not following. But I tell you, I want you to just write them down slowly and go through them slowly. All right. And I know that your problem is because you're hearing about natural and acquired and active and passive and all of that. All right. But nonetheless, you are going to be fine. I know I should have touched something else. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, great. I have it to touch. So we spoke about vaccination, and we said that vaccination, they are artificial active immunity. And there's a long list of things that we're vaccinated for when we go to the clinic. Next time you carry your baby to the clinic and they're giving the baby an injection, find out what is happening. Now, we could think about diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus. All right, tetanus is, we're going to look at that one with passive immunity. Tetanus, hepatitis B, polio, measles, mumps, German measles, and of course, pneumonia. Tuberculosis is also something that we are vaccinated against. So it's a long list there. Guys, you really want to ensure that you understand immunity getting into the exam, because it is always on your multiple choice paper, and we're not too sure if you're going to be seeing it on the paper too, but there's a great possibility. So we just looked at artificial active. Artificial active, once you hear active, it's been made inside, right? you are making the antibodies. You were stimulated to do so by the wheaten strain that was injected or given to you orally. But in this case, this is artificial passive immunity. In this case, it is artificial passive. Remember when we started out, we say that if it is passive, we are getting the antibodies from somewhere else. If it is passive, we are getting the antibodies from somewhere else. And if it is artificial, then it has the human influence. Now, with artificial passive immunity, the antibodies are injected directly into the patient or directly into you. Now, in passive, as I said before, the body does not make its own antibodies. As I have just said, it is injected or it is given to you, those antibodies. Now, example would have been like serum. Now, serum with antibodies together, we refer to it as antiserum. The beauty about antiserum versus the vaccine is that it is fast acting. It's like good to go. It is ready to use. It is fast acting. Just one drawback, it doesn't last for long. Just one drawback, it doesn't last for long. Now, because it is fast acting, it is always in the arsenal or in that medicine chest for your medical practitioner. And I'm going to give you some good reasons why we need to have the artificial passive type of immunity thing, the antiserum, available. Because if you were supposed to be bitten by a snake, it is the antiserum that you are given because it is fast acting and we want to preserve your life. Another thing is that we tend to give antiserum also for tetanus. Other than tetanus and the snake bites, children who are not vaccinated and become ill because of one of these stuff like tetanus, they are given the anti-serum. A lot said there. I don't know if it is more than you can manage, right? So innate, lifelong, yes? I don't know if you can manage all that. But with that said, we are now going to be moving over into our past paper. We are over time and we're going to see how best we can answer this question. And I can assure you that there's a question there that everyone should be able to answer. So I am going to just go up on here and find the question. We are looking at the question 5. I think it is posted in the chat. And I think we gave you some answers for this question here. So everybody should be getting this right. So let us start. I gave you the answers sometime in the show. The question is, and it's question number 5. Somebody can just type what year it is. Name 3 components of the human blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogenic disease and state the function of each. Now, this is a wonderful question because it pulls us back to the whole idea that blood is a mixture. Just like, don't do that. That blood is a mixture. Now, usually when we see blood, as you would have been, you have a scar or something, we think that blood is just one thing, but it is made up of different components. All right, so we're looking at the May-June 2018 HSB paper, and we're looking at question number 5. So now we want to know, I'll read that question for you again, and you are going to answer very quickly what you think the answer is. It's a very, very easy thing, and we covered it in the show today, so I'm sure that you would have that information on the tip of your tongue. So for 6 marks, you are going to tell us, you are going to name 3 components of the blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogenic diseases, and state the function of each. All right, so let me see what we have here. Are we ready to answer? Components of the blood. What there, remember the blood is made up of blood cell and plasma and protein and water. So what component of the blood would be protecting you from pathogen? Anybody? Anyone with the answer? Okay, so I'm going to give you a clue. Could I ask you, what is the function of the red blood cell? What's the function of a red blood cell? So if you observe here, we're asking you a question about immunity. However, you need to be armed with the skill from cell specialization or cell differentiation. And with that skill from cell differentiation, it is further boosted by your knowledge of the circulatory system. So among the red blood cell, white blood cell, and platelets. Among, you're close. Tell me which one of those would be wrong or defend them. Tell me why you say red blood cell. Tell me why you say white blood cell. Tell me why you say platelets. And I like your answer because there's something in it that I will have to teach about. There's a thing here that we need to correct getting into the exam. Why red blood cell am I? Why white blood cell? Why platelets? If you can defend them, probably we could have an answer here. All right, anybody else with the answer? All right, daily, red blood cell carry oxygen and the nutrient around the body. All right, great. I think you are answering for red blood cell carry nutrient and oxygen around the body. Red blood cell carry nutrient. Look at that again for me. Red blood cell transport oxygen as oxyhemoglobin. All right, it combines with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. Red blood cell help to carry oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body. Great. So now that we know or we can recall what's the function of the specialized cell that we call red blood cell, the red blood cell is not the blood. The red blood cell is just a part of the blood. All right? Now, I want you to tell me some other type of cells that we would find in the blood. Other types of cells that we would find in the blood. You are going to answer it because you have the answer, you know. It's just that you're not thinking the way the question was asked. But you, of course, you have the answer. Tell me about some other type of cells other than the red blood cell that is found in the blood. Remember that the blood is just a mixture, like air is a mixture, and in air we are going to have carbon dioxide, we are going to have oxygen, we are going to have nitrogen, we are going to have water vapor, as it were, for our syllabus with respiration. So we know that blood is a mixture, and no longer can we, but plasma is not so much a cell. All right, so I am seeing plasma, I'm seeing platelets. All right, continue. I am so happy that you guys are answering this. Guys, the more misconception you feed me, the better I can correct your misconception. So if you don't attempt to answer the questions and you have a misconception, you are going to leave here and still not sure what should be said or not said. So I am looking at the screen now, and if I were supposed to combine persons' answers, I could get the answer. So what I want persons to do is to look at the answers that were given and see if you can find the answer on screen, because I am seeing it. It's just that there's no one person who would have answered the question. But if we look at the answers from different persons, we can make an answer for this. So let us use this collaborative effort, this cooperative learning approach to see if we can find the answer for this question. You know that Mr. Wilson is not supposed to answer the question. I validate. All right. So for those persons who are just coming on, we are looking at the May-June 2018 question number 5. And we are trying to answer the question that says, name 3 components of the blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogenic disease and state the function. We're saying that in order to answer this question, it's paramount that you have a good grasp of cell differentiation or cell specialization. So too, you should understand circulation. If you were supposed to understand those and a little knowledge of immunity, you'll be able to treat with it. So I'm sure I saw Natisha coming in with something. So Tamara is saying red blood cell, white blood cell, and platelets. Natisha is saying platelets, red and white blood cell. Interesting here. All right. I am seeing a lot of things here. It's a different question. Oh, it's a different question. Okay. Vaughn is saying that it's the wrong question that was posted. All right. So let me look and tell you exactly which year it is. It's question number 5 for sure. And it is 2018. Whether it is May or June, I'm not even certain. All right, I'm not sure. Oh, somewhere here. I'm sorry. All right, great. All right, so let me come back around and let us look at some of the things that we are doing wrong. All right, Amoy says plasma. All right, great. I do appreciate the fact that we have some misconception, and I must applaud those persons who stepped forward to place them in the domain that we can treat with them. All right, so some of the components of the blood, of course, is going to be plasma. We're going to have red blood cell, all right, and we're going to have white blood cell. But the tricky thing about white blood cell in every exam is that students never recall that the white blood cell is called leukocytes. The red blood cell is called erythrocyte. The platelet is called thrombocyte. And then students never recall or can't recall that the leukocyte is made up of the lymphocyte and the phagocyte, which are 2 different types of white blood cell. So I'm going to draw for you. So the lymphocyte has a round nucleus. The phagocyte, and I'll draw that on a different paper. It costs a lot of paper to draw. I'm going to draw on a different paper the phagocyte. So the phagocyte is usually this organism with this lobe nucleus. And it's also called granulocyte. And you'll see it like it's eating some pathogen there. It feeds by phagocytosis. All right. So this is a white blood cell. This one here is called phagocyte or granulocyte. This one here is a white blood cell. This is called a lymphocyte. And then we probably want to get now back to the red blood cell. The red blood cell, it does not have a nucleus. So you might see it drawn like this. And usually you might see a little bell-shaped thing drawn below it. This is not drawn so accurate, but you might see something like this drawn somewhere beside it. So let us get back to that question because you are going to answer the question. So now you know we have moved away from the white blood cell because that is like a family name. And now we're speaking specifically about the lymphocytes and the granulocytes. So I'll ask you again to answer the question. Now you have all the answers there. Somebody put them together and tell me what is the answer. Platelets is also considered a white blood cell, but platelets is also in the mix. Can someone please type a question and correct answer? Why should we have anybody type the correct answer for you, Amai? We want you to answer it. Now, as to type in the question, I could read it again and somebody type the question. So I'm going to read it and then we are all going to answer it. I really don't want one person to answer. I want everybody to attempt. So let me go slowly. Name 3 components of human blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogenic disease and state the function of each. Name 3 components of the blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogenic disease and state the function of each. That's the question. I haven't seen ADIPlus in a while. All right, do we have a question? Do we have the answer? Platelet cause the blood to clot. All right, let me say the components of the human blood. No, it is not now to answer about the components of the blood in Tamara. It is now to answer what component of the blood guard us against pathogen. Name the 3 components of the human blood that are important in protecting the body against pathogen and state the function of each. I can safely tell you we're not looking for erectocytes. We're not looking for erectocyte. The erectocyte chief function is to transport oxygen. But the platelet is a part, yeah, because the platelet would cause the clotting, blood to clot, to, of course, block out any foreign organism. The phagocyte would be eating, invading pathogen. Yes, so we have 2 there. What's the other? What's the other? Oh my. I think I'm pushing it too hard now. So the answer is going to be platelets, phagocyte, and lymphocyte. I said earlier in the lesson that when there is a cut, a scar on the body, what happens is that the phagocyte will come in to protect you. Remember I said that? And if a phagocyte can't deal with it, then the lymphocyte is going to come in. Remember I said that? And then after that, or during that whole process, we are going to be having the blood clot taking place. So it has to try to form this network that will cause the skin to heal. And again, if you want to know, it is some mitosis taking place here. All right, when you get a cut and it heals, it's actually mitosis. All right, so I don't know if that was too hard for you. Was it too hard for you? Yes or no, it's fine. Was it hard for you? Was it hard for you? We're looking at defense, the body's defense mechanism. We could also ask you about the skin, because the skin is also part of the body's defense mechanism. Talk to me, somebody. Everybody is sleeping? Yes, ADIPlus, I saw your answer. Phagocyte engulf and destroy pathogen. Great. Lymphocyte produce antibodies. And platelets seal the wound to restrict the loss of blood and prevent the entry of pathogen. Barnett, that is so sweetly said. All right, great. All right, kind of hard. Great. Now, if it is kind of hard, you're down the right path. And what I'll do, I'll send out this worksheet tomorrow. I really like the answer that was given by Barnett. It is just so spot on. I think everybody should copy that and pin it to that question there. I really, really like it. I really like it. It was wonderfully said. All right. All right, remember you can copy and paste, so you don't have to go and write out everything. Oh yes, the question was really hard. How I know that it was really hard? I realized that Amoy gave up. Let me tell you when I found out that Amoy gave up. When Adiplus came in, which is another teacher in the room, Adiplus came in, and Adiplus realized that you were struggling, and she gave you the answer. She's another teacher, a biology teacher in the room. So there are a couple of teachers in the room. All right, great. So I saw Amai saying, out of frustration, can someone please type the question and the correct answer? And I realized that, hey guys, I'm really pushing you too hard. All right, let us look at the other question. Never mind, it was there. You are one step closer. If it wasn't hard, you would never remember this question. But you'll always remember this question. And like we said, we were trying to find those pointed questions where students would have struggled to put these in front of you. All right, we're not looking for what is a cell. Everybody knows what a cell is. All right, so let us just move on down to the other question. Remember when I told you that this is sort of a real tough one because this is 6 marks, you know, just for that question, 6 marks. Those 3 questions you have to answer to earn full marks for this particular question. All right, now you are called upon to answer for immunity. Listen carefully. Marianne is 1 month, Marianne, a 1 month old baby, acquires immunity from her mother through breastfeeding. Marianne's father accidentally punctured his finger with a nail. Now, in normal situation, when you puncture yourself with a nail, you're going to get a tetanus shot. But look what happens here. But he does not need a tetanus antiserum injection because he received a tetanus vaccine the previous year. So normally, you would have been given an antiserum if you stepped on a nail, right? But in this case, the father does not need to take the antiserum because he was given a vaccine the previous year. Now, listen to your question. Explain how the type of immunity that Marianne acquired from breastfeeding differs from the type of immunity that her father acquired from his vaccine. In your explanation, state the name of each type of immunity. Let us go. We are ready. So we are going to start out by saying what type of immunity did the baby receive from the breast milk? What type of immunity did the baby receive from the breast milk? What type of immunity did the baby receive from the breast milk? You're watching Mr. Wilson live. We are streaming from Kingston, Jamaica. We are on here on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I am here today because I've been out for some sessions and we wanted to finish with disease that we can start on pollution tomorrow. Now, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. When you subscribe, click that notification bell and select all. Let me tell you a little bit about YouTube. You see, when I send those videos out, if everybody go and watch those videos as they come out, you will see more of those videos come in front of you as your suggested video. And YouTube will also push the video to other persons to say that this is a video to watch. If you take forever to watch the video, YouTube will say this video probably is not a good video, so I'm not going to recommend it. So the next time you turn on your phone, you might not see the video in front of you. So the more you watch the video, the quicker you watch the video when we push them out, the better it is for you, and the better it argues for me to do another video to send out. Because if I'm sending out a video and I'm seeing 100 views, what sense does it make for me to send another? It means that you are not watching the video, you don't like the video, so probably you are doing it by yourself. But when we're seeing a lot of persons viewing the videos, then we start to send out more video because we realize then that you need some help. So now we're looking at immunity, and we want to find out what type of immunity is acquired from the mother and the breast milk. And we want to find out what type of immunity is acquired from the vaccine that was given to the father. And then we want to, I think it wants us to explain them. So let me start looking at what is happening here. So Felix is saying that it is natural, innate, active immunity that pretty much comes from the mother. Barnes is saying the baby receive natural passive immunity. So some persons are saying natural passive, some persons are saying natural active, persons are saying a number of stuff. But what is it really? Let us come on down here. The father receive artificial immunity, but it can't just be artificial. We have to be very, very specific. So just be specific when you are telling me about it. Let us get back up there to the person who said the baby received natural immunity. We can't leave it there. Natural passive immunity. The baby received natural passive immunity. The father received artificial immunity. We can't leave it there. The baby received natural innate passive immunity. So natural innate passive immunity. Amoy, the baby has natural passive immunity. You leave out the innate, which is acquired, yes, acquired, yeah, by transferring of antibodies from mother to baby in the breast milk. That's great as well. Amoy again, father has artificial passive immunity, artificial passive immunity when the serum containing antibody Amoy, careful. Amoy, careful. They mentioned two things about the father. They said that he didn't need to take the anti-serum, which is normally the practice when you're pricked by a nail. You are going to take the serum or the anti-serum. In this case, he was given a vaccine. So it's a vaccine that we want to know about, not the anti-serum. All right? So usually when we are answering questions like these, we try to underline what is being asked and not to get carried away by other buffer information in the question. All right? So the father is receiving artificial Barnett is making the same mistake. Remember what we said about vaccine? Remember what we said about vaccine? Remember, anti-serum, which is the artificial passive immunity, that has to do with the anti-serum. It is fast acting. So that is not what he got. They are saying that they didn't need to get that because he got the vaccine before. So we want to find out what type of immunity is garnered from the vaccine. Now, the type of immunity that is garnered from the vaccine is artificial active immunity, because what would have happened is that it would have been something stimulated by human, and having been stimulated by human, the active part is that your body is going to, of course, produce antibodies to guard against that. Yes, and that is nice, Amoy, because usually when we say tetanus, the first thing that comes to mind is a serum. But if you remember when I named that long list of things that we are vaccinated for. Tetanus was a third thing I made mention of. So don't get carried away because the common thing is that tetanus. Yes, you are going to get the serum if you were not vaccinated for tetanus. Remember, I also said for children who were not vaccinated, they will get the anti-serum. For those persons who were bitten by a snake, they will get the anti-serum. Remember, I made mention of those, right? And for those persons who have the tetanus, they will, of course, get the anti-serum. But if you were vaccinated, then there is no need to get the anti-serum. All right? So we have to be very, very careful that we are paying attention to the details and not be clouded by what we call noise in communication. I strongly think that, guys, I will have to do a video just on immunity. I'm going to get some pictures in and some better examples because I am not confident here that you would have garnered all I wanted you to get from this lesson. So definitely, I'm going to be doing a video on immunity. I don't think that you are comfortable with immunity, and immunity is going to be on the exam. There's no if nor but because it has never given itself leave. All right, let me see what you will do with this question, though. This is the last question for this question number 5. The authorities prevent children who are not immunized from registering for public schools. Suggest 2 reasons why some parents may have a valid concern about immunizing their children, and 2 reasons why the authorities maintain their position on preventing the entry of I think this is unvaccinated children. All right. So let me just tell you now. Let me just say that very, very quickly. Yes, I think. Okay. Yes, I really see. I can feel the energy now. I can feel it. It's like as a teacher, you must be able to feel the energy. Governments, they are not allowing children to go to school if they are not vaccinated. However, there are still some parents who really don't want their kids to be vaccinated. Now, you are supposed to give 2 reasons to support the decision of a parent not wanting their kids to be vaccinated. And you are also supposed to give 2 reasons to support the government why these kids are supposed to be barred from school. Now, you are going to be using your knowledge of communicable diseases to look at this. And if I tell you anything else, I'm going to give you too much clue. So see if you can treat with that. Dylan, let me look at what you have. The baby is receiving natural, innate, passive immunity because it's coming from the mother, breast milk, to build its resistance, while the father acquired artificial active immunity for resistance. I think that was good. All right, great. So let us look at the last question. Let's look at the last question. The last question wants you to give us 2 reasons to support those parents who really don't want to immunize their kids, and 2 reasons why government should maintain their position. Contrary. All right, so you're saying this and you're saying that. What do you think? All right, let me tell you something. When you get to this, when you get to the exam and you see a question like this, you cannot afford to leave these lines blank because this is like common sense. If we were doing environmental science, we'd say that this is one of the things we refer to as follow-up activity. All right, Bernard. Okay, coming in late. Thanks for joining us. All right, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. I'm seeing some persons for the first time, but I am really appreciative of the fact that you are here. We are running out of time now. The clock is really, really burning, so we need to get this out of the way. All right, so I can treat with that. Persons might say that, listen to me, what you're putting inside of my child is a pathogen or a weakened form of the pathogen, whether it be weakened or otherwise, it is a pathogen. And who knows, probably my child would have had innate resistance to this type of a pathogen that you are putting in. So I wouldn't want that to be in my child, which is a plausible reason. Now, the child might have adverse reaction to the vaccine. That's another plausible reason. More can come. The parents might have religious reasons, staunch religious reason why they wouldn't want that to be injected in them. Like, you know that Adventists, they are not in for blood transfusion. So that would be against their religious right. All right. So I can think about religion being a valid reason. And I can also think about those two other that are uncertain about the vaccine. Great. So I'm seeing here that Orain would have actually given some nice things there. And Amoy also came up with some nice stuff. This is what you want to look at. So now we want to look at the government. Why is it that you're supporting the government in their bid or their quest or their stance not to allow these children to go into school? I remember that you'd have to elaborate on these points that you have given Amoy and Orain. For the exam, you'd have to elaborate in order to get the answer, the full marks. We're not elaborating now, because I think that once you have this part of the question, the rest is almost set. All right, the rest is like common sense to follow up with what you have written so far. All right, you would have known about several examples that person would have been fine or appeared to be fine, and having taken the vaccine, end up dying. All right, so support the government now for a minute, please. Supporting the government. Children who are not vaccinated will get sick easily, putting strain on the healthcare system. So this is a question that in environmental science, I'd say to the students that you're going to be using 3Ds to answer it. Now, in 3D for environmental science, in 3D for environmental science, we are going to have the social, the economical, and the environmental issues. So here Amoy is saying that there is an economic and social issue, in that if a child becomes sick, it is going to put strain on the healthcare system, and it, of course, is going to cause strain on the family. So the healthcare, there's this money to treat with that, and of course the social aspect, that persons are going to be affected by it. Another thing about the environmental part of this is that the pathogen might be something that is contagious, and other persons might be affected by it. So you come into school and you are not treated for this thing, you are not vaccinated against it, you might be the person who is going to pass it on to somebody else. So for that reason, the government wants you to stay out of school. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you are going to put our population at risk. We'd prefer not having you here. All right? So I think of those as two wonderful reasons: to protect your population, one, against the disease, and one, to reduce the strain that it will have on the healthcare system, two, and of course, to prevent mass infestation should we have a breakout that is caused by you. In Jamaica, when we had our first breakout of COVID, I think it happened at a funeral, and from there, we have had many persons coming. Of course, persons were infected after that via other avenues, but pretty much from that first avenue, we had a whole lot of other persons being infected. We were not able to contain it because persons were coming from different avenues to treat with that. That takes us to the end of our class for today. It is much longer than I thought it would have been. I was expecting that we would have been out of here in half an hour. We are now 7 minutes away from 2 hours, 6 minutes away from 2 hours. So it's a really, really, really long class. I don't know how I'm going to tell my family that I spent an hour and a half longer than I had proposed to stay. They will have high death rate among they would have high death rate among the population, leading to decrease in population, hence long run low labor supply. Great, that's a very good answer. So is going to affect. And with that answer, Amoy, I like that answer. With that answer presented, it might be a good time for me to look at presenting you that population graph that is going to tie nicely into that answer that Amoy gave when we look at the population pyramid. On the population pyramid, I think we are looking at HIV just the same, and how persons are going to be affected based on the population pyramid. If you have never seen a population pyramid, I suggest that you just go online, type in population pyramid, do some reading on it. The truth is the population pyramid is in your textbook, but it is not nicely covered as we would have covered it for NVR, probably social study. There's not much information. Just like at CXC, there's not much information on the pedigree chart. I am going to strongly suggest before you go, you see, I have a playlist called Genetics. I can't remember a CSEC exam, be it bio or HSB, without a genetic question. Be it meiosis, mitosis, or one of the genetic cross. Go over there for me, see, and watch the genetic cross. Because I saw a question today that asked about sickle cell and two normal persons having a child that has the disease. And it was not well treated because our students could not interpret or decipher that these parents were two carriers. They were like really, really lost because they did not put in the work. Remember, the Bible told us you have to study to show yourself approved. So if we are not practicing, when we started out, I told you about the 500 pack of paper, that I am a 500 pack of paper person. If I'm studying something, I have a 500 pack of paper and I keep writing and throwing away those paper until it gets into my head, right? So stop just reading something and say, I'm over with it. Start writing and practicing. You got this paper today, which really bold you all on immunity. I'm happy that I gave it to you because I didn't know that you were so rusty on immunity because I taught immunity already. So we definitely have to look at doing a video on immunity, and I'll try to put some animation that you can actually see what is happening. I don't know if I have time. It's going to take me some time to put that in because it requires animation. All right, and I have to write this animation stuff. And you know my work schedule already. I'm always busy. Anyhow, thank you much for stopping by. I am going to be publishing a video probably within the next hour. That video is on, let me tell you. Oh, Vaughn, the video is on excretion. And this is another thing that is going to bold you, I am sure, because you guys are not paying attention to dialysis. So don't worry yourself. I answered it. We are going to be sending out this evening question number, let me tell you which paper. It's from the January 2014 Human and Social Biology paper, question number 3. Might I emphasize, let me just say this again before I leave. The single question that we are sending out, while they are saying HSB, they are information, it's information for both the students doing biology and HSB, right? Because all these topics that we have looked at so far that we have sent out, they are both biology and HSB topic. I want you to pay attention to the housefly. I want you to pay attention to the housefly. The fact that they sent that question where you were supposed to give the number of days, we'll have to send out something with the mosquito that you can look at that as well. Anyhow, that's going to be for me this evening. Remember, if you never get to the top of the mountain, show someone the way. It has always been my pleasure being here, and the same is true today. Until we meet tomorrow evening for the water cycle and water pollution, take good care of yourselves and your neighbor. Good evening.